What's going on, guys? Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, show some love, consider joining my membership program. And if you want to, for the information, I always accept cups of coffee as donation. There's a bunch of ways to do that down in the description of the video. But without further ado, let's talk about this bike because I have a lot to say. Let's get going. Hey, whoa, where are you going? Hey, listen. If I'm going to take the time to teach you how to do all this stuff, then you get your butt back out in that garage. And then you smash the subscribe and like button because I'm an awesome guy and I like to give free information. So you should do me a favor. But don't be walking away. We got things to learn today and to fix. So you better go grab your tools and get out in that garage right now. Right now. What are you waiting for? Go. Jeez. Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Daniel. I run the iFixShit YouTube channel. I've made over 3,000 videos to help people. I have been around a long time. I used to own a motorcycle and scooter repair shop. I've owned probably close to 500 bikes and personal bikes in my life. I've pretty much ridden almost everything under the sun. And out of all of the bikes that I have ever had the opportunity to own or play with or ride or review, by far, the Ninja 500R is my favorite. And we're going to talk about a few reasons why I think it is the best bike to own kind of all the way around, right? And again, I've owned a lot, and I mean a lot of different bikes. By far, this is my favorite bike. I've had probably 5 of these in my lifetime. I'm almost 40, and they're just such fantastic machines. I've never owned one that I hated. So, let me tell you why I think everyone should own one of these at least some point in their life, or just keep one forever. One, resale value. This bike from Kawasaki has been the longest running, I think it's been over 20 years of this bike now. I think it has the longest running, almost unchanged format out of all of their bikes they've ever offered. I believe the first version of this was 1987 until 2009. So from 1987 to 2009, this bike has almost been completely unchanged. That's engine, transmission, all of that stuff. The body went through a little bit of change in the 90s, but after that, that was it. This has been almost the identical bike for almost 20 years. And what that means is that, number one, it has a very long history of being reliable, of having a bulletproof engine, and a lot of fan support for this bike, meaning a lot of people that purchased this loved it. They sold a I can't even say the number amount of these. That's how popular the Ninja 500R really was. Like, just, they sold so many of these over the years that it's been a bike that they just kept around forever. And then in 2009, they dumped it because people were like, oh, there's not really a reason for the 500 class anymore. Like, give us a reason for the 500 class. You have 600, and then they came out with the 400, which was the replacement essentially for the 500 was the 400. But if we're being honest, it made less power. It made less power and it was less performance than the 500. So they phased out the 500 for literally no reason at all other than a 400 starter platform for people. It was weird. Like, the whole transition for phasing it out was weird. And then it went just unhindered for a long time. They just didn't bring it back. They just kept with the 400 class, the 300 class, the 250 class, the 600 class. The 500 just kind of fell off the map. And then in 2024, they were like, you know what? Let's bring back the 500. But they didn't do it in the same style that I thought they were going to. Granted, it has all the new technology, fuel injection, all that. It's still a parallel twin. But it actually produces less power than the original 500R. So it wasn't even like it was a upgrade. It just had aesthetics that people liked more, and it wasn't carbureted anymore. And we're going to talk about why I like the carbureted versus fuel injected. And this goes for any bike. Any bike I've ever put my hands on, I will always, if I can, choose the carbureted version over the fuel injection version for one reason, 2 reasons. One, it's so much cheaper to work on carburetors if you understand the technology or you're willing to do a little research. And two, whenever you have a dead battery, you can literally just push the bike and it'll start. Whereas fuel injection, a lot of bikes now are able to do that, but it takes a lot more turning of the back tire to get the engine to rotate to create the power necessary to prime the system and get the fuel pump kicking enough to actually turn on for the EFI fuel injection system. It's so much more difficult. With this, you literally just push it up to 5 miles an hour, sit on the seat, let out the clutch in second gear, and the bike will just start. Whether you have a dead battery, your starter gave out, or your starter gear is having a problem, you can literally just start the bike by bump starting it. And that is a huge reason why I love carburetors. And I would say probably the last reason is that carburetors are smoother on and off the throttle than fuel injection ever was. Ever. I have never ridden a fuel injected bike that I actually liked the power and how it put it down to the engine and the road and my body. Like it's such a herky-jerky sensation compared to carburetors. Carburetors are just so much smoother than fuel injection. Granted, you can get more performance out of fuel injection, but smoothness, 100% always going to be carburetor to me. This is carbureted. It's cheap. It's cheap. The upkeep and maintenance on this bike is so cheap. Between the carburetor, like literally, I put brand new carburetors in this bike. It was $340 for brand new carbs. I tuned them myself. They came with a jet kit. It was really simple to do. It was not difficult at all. I've worked on a lot of bikes. It was so easy to replace the carburetors on this. Like, so simple. Okay? I replaced all the fuel lines, all the vacuum lines. It's such a simplistic system. There's just not much to it. That's what makes it so amazing. It produces a whopping 60 horsepower out of this parallel twin. The 2024 version of the new 500 that they released is only it's 449 cc's. This is 499 cc's. This is a true 500. It's a true 500 cc bike that produces 60 horsepower at 9,500 RPMs. This makes more power and performance than the new version that they released. It's like, I don't know what Kawasaki was going for here. It really doesn't make sense. This is still the better purchase. It's more reliable, it's faster, it has more performance. It may not look as cool, but it's bulletproof. The engine and the parts, think about it, almost completely unchanged for 20 years. You can literally order a part for a 1991, it'll fit on a 2009. That's how awesome this bike is, and that's why the resale value on this bike is so amazing, because there's so many parts out there that are interchangeable for this bike available to you, right? So these bikes in bad condition still sell for like $2,000. In great condition, they still sell for like $4,000. The MSRP on this bike was just barely more than that. That means it's maintained its value for over 20 years. You can still sell these for $3,500 today with high mileage in reasonable condition. And that's because of the interchangeable parts and the bulletproof reliability of the engine and the transmission. These bikes have been known to rarely ever have problems. And if they do have problems, it's always going to be carburetor related, which, as I told you, if it ends up being an unsolvable carburetor issue, it's $340. Just slap new carbs in it and you're done. Then move on with life. Bike is back to functioning. Tires are cheap. These tires literally are like $70 a piece, $60 a piece. I got both front and rear. I haven't put the rear one on, but I got the front one brand new for $65. Both of them. I put them on myself in the garage. Cheap. It's so cheap to maintain this bike. And it is the perfect amount of power, whether you're an experienced rider or a beginner. It offers you such a docile ride or a super aggressive ride. The other cool thing about this is it doesn't fall into the same category as a 600. What I mean by that is this produces the power and steam that it has at lower RPMs to mid-range RPMs instead of high RPMs. Whereas a 600, something like an inline 4 engine instead of a parallel twin 2-cylinder engine, An inline 4 needs to be up around 5,000 or 6,000 RPMs before it produces its power. This one is going to produce that power at the low range. So this is a perfect track bike, hitting the twisties, ripping through traffic. This bike is going to feel like it's fast and powerful in traffic. Okay, but it is not a top-end bike. You're not going to be racing 600s with this. If you modified it a little bit, you could probably get it up to about 130 miles an hour. They're known to go about 118, 120 stock. I've done some modifying. I've removed some weight characteristics. I've removed some drag. I went low profile turn signals. I'm about to redo the exhaust. I'm going to alleviate some weight off of this thing to make it a bit faster. I don't need to go that fast though. Like maybe 100 every once in a while just to have some fun, feed a little steam to the ride, get some thrill in my life. That's it. I didn't buy this bike to go fast. I bought this bike to rip through traffic and have some fun. This bike is super aggressive in the low range. So around town and stuff, and it just shreds on the streets, man. This bike is an animal on the streets. It doesn't sound super cool. It definitely gives off an 80s vibe. It's like driving around a retro time machine that's stupid overpowered for traffic. That's what it feels like. And that's fun. That's fun for a lot of people. I love the retro vibes that it puts out. I really do. Obviously I've done some things to kind of make it look a bit more aggressive. Like I said, I chopped the tail unit off. I went low profile turn signals. I removed the stickers that were on the back because those were kind of goofy. I've never been a fan of the flames. Low profile turn signals on the front. I'm about to do stealth mirrors up here. We're going to change a few things. And I think I'm going to have my buddy 3D print a final cowl for right here. I think we're going to wrap that all the way down and around there. And if I decide to do that, we'll offer that to people if they want to print it or print it themselves on Thingiverse and then have it sanded, painted, fiberglassed over, whatever you want to do. It's up to you guys. But I do want to create a full cowl version of this, and that's easy enough to do with 3D printers today. So I think we're going to do that. But other than that, I love the look of this, and a lot of people do, and that's why this bike was purchased so much. Not only was it a reasonably priced bike when it released, it has withstood the test of time and reliability. These things rarely ever break. Those transmissions on these are built like tanks. You don't hear about people blowing out gears in 500Rs. It just doesn't happen. It's non-existent. You may burn a clutch, but I've never heard of losing a gear on a 500R or blowing a cylinder. I've never heard of it. Never. I've been in the motorcycle world since like 2003. I've never once heard about one of these things either blowing up or blowing a gear out of them. It just sounds like it's not possible. And that is Kawasaki building an incredible machine. That's what that is. Oil changes are cheap and easy. This is the simplest sport bike to work on. It's just such a masterpiece. It really is. Very little plastics to deal with. The tank comes off with one bolt, a couple screws, one screw here, one screw there. Tank undoes, pops off. You got access to the carbs. You got access to the engine top. You got access to the airbox. Your coils are right behind these panels. Super easy to get. This is the simplest bike ever to work on. Oh, you want to replace the brakes on the back, 2 Allen wrenches. It comes off. Another Allen wrench, new brake pad, slap it back on. Same thing with the front, 2 bolts, pops right off, an Allen wrench, boop, brake pads off, on. Tires, you can do them all yourself in your garage with a set of spoons. This is by far the easiest, most amazing bike that I think has ever been created for the general public. It offers you everything from reliability to sport bike riding, aggressive riding stance, raised handlebars for comfort, retro look. Like, this thing is just cool. It's so cool. It just functions so well. It's a street hungry bike. When you're riding on this, it just feels like it's hugging the road. You could tell I'm excited, and I'm excited because I'm trying to share the experience that I've had with all these bikes with you guys so you understand. These are amazing machines for the money. If you can pick one up for $2,000 or $2,500, $2,700, $3,000, and it's in good shape, buy it. Buy it. Make it your first bike. It is so easy to own one of these and love it. Just for the simplicity of it and the power it produces. Like, it is such a unique bike. You can modify the crap out of these things. There's tons of stuff you can put on them. All sorts of stuff, or take off, or put on. Whatever. They make exhaust kits for them. They do it. Like, it's just, they don't make body panels and stuff. Like, it's very rare you come across body panels. But when it comes to all the other little knick-knacky things, go nuts. Go nuts. You can have all the fun you want to installing stuff on these. I'm going for more of a streamlined, low-profile look. I still have my red rim tape coming. Like I said, my stealth mirrors. I've got some handle grips coming for this. I'm looking for a very streamlined look on this. I want it to be sexy. I want it to be sexy. And I'm thinking maybe some Muzzy, Two Brothers, or Yoshimura pipes, just for a little bit of sound. Aesthetically pleasing to the ears. But this is a bike you can buy, and as long as you don't crash the crap out of it and wreck a bunch of stuff, it'll hold its value the entire time you own it. You can almost get exactly what you paid for it back out of it. And if you paid even less, then let's say you got one for $1,500, you can turn around and sell the bike for $3,000 and make profit off of it after you've ridden it for 4 years. It is a bike that just maintains its value forever. I don't understand, again, I don't understand what Kawasaki was doing with the new 500 that they released. They made it underpowered compared to the original. I don't get that. I would think they would want to make performance enhancements and have people go, wow, I kind of want to try the old 500 now that I've had this, because it's not the same. If I got on a new 500 and took it for a ride, it would feel slower than this. It would feel more like a toy in comparison to this. This would feel way faster and more aggressive than the new 500 they put out. I don't understand Kawasaki's reasoning for that. If you're still looking at the Kawasaki 500, I would buy the old one before I would buy the new one. It makes less RPM range. It's not the same bike. This is going to be easier to care for, take care of, maintain. You're going to get more performance. You're going to get more power. You're going to have more fun. And it's just a cool bike. It's just a cool bike. It really is. I've ride it around. People are like, what year is that? They think it's really old. They think it's like something out of the 80s. I'm like, it's a 2008. They're like, shut up. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's maintained this look for 20 years. Over 20 years. It's had the same look. That's incredible. It's incredible. I'll do a walk around real quick with you guys. I'm not gonna sit here and talk your ear off. I've been talking for a while, but let's do a quick walk around so you can see what I'm talking about. So I have streamlined it. It doesn't have the big bulky turn signals on it anymore. It's got the low profile turn signals. Sorry if my camera sketches a little bit. As you can see, I haven't changed the clips out yet. I still left the stock clips. I did put the foam mount on there, and I also did add my wrist assist, which is great for long rides. And no seat cover. I left all the seat original, but it does have that awesome 80s look, that just retro 80s, 90s look, man. It's just so amazing. I changed the turn signals on the front to smaller ones. Those are called stingers. And again, I'm going with stealth mirrors. We're going to definitely do the stealth mirrors. So I hope that video helps you guys make a decision. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe. If you have any further questions about this beast, let me know. I'll answer them in the comment section, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Buy one. You'll love it. They're great. They're amazing bikes. Get yourself one. You'll appreciate it forever. It's an amazing bike. Toodles.